Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Giri and Chris Callicutt, when we're going to talk about SmackDown Live for May 30th, 2017. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Raj, what did you think of SmackDown last night?
I thought it was better than Raw. But that's kind of the recurring theme. But yeah, I mean, again, nothing blew me away. It still felt like a by the numbers show for the most part. Announcing the women's Money in the Bank ladder match was kind of cool. They did it a little differently, which I liked. But other than that, just nothing really stuck. Again, with the main event with Dolph beating AJ, they're kind of already doing this on Raw, but I'm guessing we're just going to see all the SmackDown guys in Money in the Bank ladder match just trading victories, for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's very odd. Chris, how about you, man? What did you think last night?
Yeah, I think the show overall was pretty good. I think SmackDown in general has a little bit more of a fun feel or overtone, with the Breezango stuff. And the way that they went to the women's Money in the Bank match, I thought it was really good. They just seem like they take a couple more risks here and there. And a lot of times it pays off for them.
Yeah, we all knew from the rumors that the women's Money in the Bank ladder match was a strong possibility. So I thought it was a creative solution to that last night, and one that I think you could see where it was going, 30 seconds into that match that never officially started. But let's go segment by segment and run down the show. So we start with promos for that fatal 5-way last night for the new #1 contendership for the women's belt. But after that video package went to Kevin Owens in the ring, then introduced Nakamura, who came out to a pop. And before you know it, the whole thing devolved into Nakamura and Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens. So you're right, Raj. I mean, similar to Raw already in terms of how they're setting this up and going beat by beat. Chris, do you feel it's sort of paint by numbers at this point, how they mix match and configure the dance card for all these different guys going into a multi-man match?
That's the thing is whenever you put all these guys together in lots of different configurations, by the time the actual big match gets there, you're not all that excited about it because you've seen every option that could possibly happen. Or at least it feels that way to me. And just to sort of go back to the first little intro package with the ladies' inset promos, said, welcome to 1987 AWA. But, it's something different. It felt old school. Did they execute it that well? Not really, but hey, it was something different that they haven't tried in a while. But with the tag match, the match itself was fantastic. I thought it got just about everybody in the match over to some degree.
Yeah. Raj, what'd you make of those promos at the beginning?
It kind of reminded me of Saturday night's main event. You remember in the 80s when they'd have the promos at the beginning of the show, but with a lot less charisma, a lot less just more reading as opposed to like really being in character. But I do like the idea of it. I just think they need to sound more. They need to sound different from each other and have more. What's the word I'm looking for? Just more character.
Personality would help.
Yeah.
Because I heard Tamina talk for the first time in what seems like forever, and remembered, that's why she doesn't talk. And then because her promo was stale. It was just there.
Yeah, I don't know. Guys, I feel like I'm the only one who liked it last year, but I think that, if you hated the 6 men on a ladder in search of a dream series of vignettes and skits and monologues that we had last year leading up into Money in the Bank, I have a pretty strong feeling we're going to see that ×2 this year going into the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're building it pretty hard. So first match last night, Nakamura and Zayn won.
Real quick about that promo. Again, they're doing no favors with having Nakamura cut these long promos. I mean, he's already getting the what treatment. This is his second match on television on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So they really need to rethink just how trying to book him like everyone else or trying to be a little different with them and think outside the box with them like they do with Lesnar, because he's a big superstar where the fans react. But when he cuts those promos, he loses them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think just, man, they're doing what they're doing at this point. Nothing's going to change.
And he cut promos in NXT but they weren't that long-winded. He would get to a specific point, and it would be, some smart aleck one-liner that would pop the crowd, and that's really all he needs to do. He doesn't need to be spilling out paragraphs.
Right.
It's to the point, and I feel this way sometimes when Bailey would cut a promo, it was this way with Sasha a little bit last year, where it's just you're really rooting for him, but you're just like, please let the next word out of their mouth be the last word in this promo. Like let's take it home, people. Wrap it up here, Like it's just
Right.
Every syllable is one too many sometimes.
Yeah, he's someone that could definitely use a mouthpiece.
Yeah, literally a mouthpiece, not the mouth guard that he
Yeah,
wears.
right.
Literally someone to speak for him.
Well, no, right now he literally has a mouthpiece, but he needs someone to speak for him.
Why would you talk with that in? Raj, one week, let's do this Wednesday podcast, all wearing mouth guards, just to prove what a bad idea it is to try and talk while wearing one.
Kurt Angle did that for a little bit, and he got rid of that quickly.
Yeah, it's just, it's an impediment. I mean, it's literally impedes your speech. It is a physical speech impediment. Interesting, Sami Zayn now, man.
Yeah, and real quick, the first thing, after a UFC fight, when they don't take out their mouth guard, the first thing Joe Rogan will say is take out your mouth guard.
Yeah,
I hear you right.
That's true.
Well, he won last night with Sami Zayn, so what's that? 2 weeks in a row, Sami Zayn not losing.
Yep, and 2 weeks in a row, Nakamura pinned Kevin Owens as well.
Yeah. Wins and losses don't matter, guys. That's what we've been trained to believe.
To an extent, but they're not beating Nakamura. Not they're at least not yet.
Right.
And, I hope they don't beat him before Money in the Bank. I hope that they protect him, and when he does finally lose, it's in a title match or something that means something, as opposed to just some random TV match.
So American Alpha not on TV this week, but they got a mention from the Usos during their promo.
Yeah, they didn't even work the dark match this week.
Oh, those poor guys.
Have they been taken off the road completely? Are they doing the house shows?
They are, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what'd you think of the Usos promo? Chris, to you first.
Man, I find myself actually liking these guys in this role. I didn't think that I would initially off their first one, but it's actually kind of catchy. They're growing on me. And it's just something completely different than they've ever done before. So it feels fresh because they've come out with these little, I don't know what the exact description should be, I guess, urban gangster type of promos. But I think it fits them really well, and it's a great, aside to guys like Breezango.
Yeah, I think that it's a great contrast to the New Day, because they're completely different characters, and that's what you need more in WWE is guys that really stand out, that are their own characters, that you believe their character. And the Usos, even though they were doing that face paint kid friendly gimmick for so long, they've transformed themselves here, and you believe their characters. So I'm a fan of this.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely showing a lot more personality. I mean, they had feels like no personality before this.
Real quick, and a quick correction on American Alpha. They did not work this past weekend's live events. So they worked the dark match last week. They worked the live events before that, but they didn't work this last weekend.
So the Usos having their moment of glory out there, interrupted by New Day, and now this is going to be the test to see how dynamic the Usos will continue to appear, or they're going to continue to cede all of their time to the New Day. Raj, did you think the New Day would get a bigger pop than this last night, or is this what you expected for their return?
I thought it was a pretty big pop. So, yeah, I thought it was a good pop for. I mean, it wasn't out of this world superstar level, but it was good.
Well, because they haven't really been gone. I mean, Chris, does it feel like it was maybe a mistake to even have them on Talking Smack last week? I mean, it feels like the New Day was off TV for maybe a month?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really get a chance to miss them completely, I guess would be the way to say it. But then when they came back, I thought last night's promo was actually one of their better ones in a while. It did not feel nearly as hokey as some of the recent stuff before they went off TV.
Yeah. So maybe we're getting a slightly refined New Day. But the match was set up for the title at Money in the Bank. right? There is a title stip with that for those belts at Money in the Bank.
Yes, I believe that was announced. But, I like the way that they just walked in, and because they had the Raw titles for forever, and now they just walk into another title shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you had them go against some other tag team like the Clones or something, it would kind of kill their steam a bit, as opposed to just jumping right in.
That's true.
Yeah. So speaking of the Clones, another edition of the Fashion Files last night. How do you think things are looking for Breezango, Raj? With even last night, what was that line Fandango had? Something about now after losing to the Usos back to the discount rack with the other rejects or has-beens. I thought that was kind of...
what was that?
Fandango had a line at the start of the Fashion Files, something about saying, now that they failed with the Usos, maybe they'll go back to the discount rack with the other has-beens. I thought that was an interesting...
I didn't even catch that.
Interesting little piece of commentary on, I guess the Ascension, right? The Ascension is literally now like...
It just shows in the tag division and the women's division that unless you're in the title feud, they've got nothing for you. And, and you see it with Sasha Banks. I mean, yes, she is in a storyline, but it's a crappy one. So, that it just sucks that they can't come up with better storylines for tag teams and women that aren't in the title picture. And same as cruiserweights as well. So pretty much every division except for the male singles division.
Yeah.
Personally, I was surprised that they actually gave them something to work with after they lost last week. I honestly thought that we would not see them on TV again for a while, but I think that they got themselves over so much that they didn't really have a choice. The YouTube numbers did really well for the Fashion Files. So I think, a lot of that just caught on, and they are going to run with it. And I'm personally happy to see it because both guys are really good workers too.
Yeah. I mean, I will give credit for now because, usually when someone does something that catches on, WWE is quick to kind of kill it off. But they're sticking with this for now, and I think that's a good thing. Breezango, you definitely see them getting more and more over each week. And, it gives them something. I feel like they need a tag team to work with that doesn't bring them down while they're on the rise. Because if you have them working with the Clones or the Ascension, it just kind of tells you where they're placed. And here we go, I hate to say this all the time and always talk about turning people heel. But if you were to turn American Alpha heel, it gives them something to do, and it gives them a feud with Breezango, and it could be something entertaining on the undercard.
And they could have a heck of a match, too, if you want to look at it that way. So
absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to see what they do with them going forward from here and how this plays out. So we'll talk about the match itself, what there was of Breezango versus the Colones in a moment. Before that, so we had the build-up with Dolph Ziggler backstage, build-up with AJ warming up backstage. But let's talk about the Fatal 5-Way. So for the controlled chaos that it was with Charlotte Flair versus Carmella versus Natalya versus Tamina versus Becky Lynch last night, what did you think of that? And Raj, what did you think of Shane doing his full entrance coming out there to interrupt the match? I thought that was kind of weird. Like, I'm coming out immediately to address this, but first let me slap some hands and do a shuffle in the ring,
It definitely wasn't organic. Yeah. But you know what they always do in this situation, which I was glad they didn't do, is they have the 5 of them wrestle to like a no contest, and then they are like, "Oh, you all 5 get a chance by being in this Money in the Bank ladder match." So they tried something different here. I like that they had them be a little more. I hate using the word extreme, too much, but have them be more hardcore. By doing the table spot and getting people excited for that kind of match from the women, which we haven't seen. So, I mean, I think I would have done this segment a little bit different, but with where they went, it was fine, and actually I liked it overall, except for the Shane O'Mac entrance. But other than that, I liked it.
Yeah. Each woman got a little bit of shine. All 5 girls got some sort of a finisher or a big impact move in. So that they tried to show the equality and that anybody can win. And they did show a little extra aggression. They did not go out there and just have soft type of moves. they went out there and went at it. And I think that actually got over with the crowd, especially with the table spot. So they were put in that top of the hour spot. I think it was partially a test, but again, it's a historic announcement too. But I thought they knocked it out of the park for what they were given. I thought they did really well.
Yeah,
the women did great. There was how it was structured was odd, but I thought, now after seeing them last night, I'm way more optimistic about this match.
Yeah, a ladder match is going to be different, and I think they'll rise to the occasion. I'm
worried about Charlotte doing that.
The
moonsault from the top.
Onto something. I don't know what.
She's got to do it onto Becky because
she's the only one that can.
That you could safely count on catching her.
Well, I'll tell you, man. I know we harp a lot on SmackDown tossing 6 women together in a match, the same 6 women, 5 women, wrestling each other all the time. The good news is they're going to have this ladder match down pat because they've been doing these multi-women matches so much. They could probably do it with their eyes closed at this point,
Right. And that's pretty much all they've been doing. Even live events, they're, tagged up against each other.
When I went live, which is kind of weird. You would think at this point with the women's wrestling catching on, we're a couple years into the women's revolution, at the house shows still one women's match.
Yeah. It's too bad they don't have anything for Naomi while they're doing this,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she did that little inset promo, but again,
kind of
every single one of those are cheesy, and you know what they're going to say anyway. So I mean, they're kind of pointless. But at least she did make the show, and just sort of wasn't an anomaly.
And I'm guessing she'll probably do commentary or something at Money in the Bank during this match. But they have no other women right now on that SmackDown side. I mean, Lana, didn't they say she was going to debut tonight?
I don't think there has been a date announced for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just.
I think it's just been coming soon.
And then last night there was no promo or anything for Lana, which could mean she is really coming soon.
Yeah, maybe.
With that said, was that Summer Rae's or Lana's silhouette in the Breezango segment?
Oh yeah, so blinking, you missed it last night, but I thought for a second we were getting Lana introduced into the mix, maybe. That would probably be a good way to bring her in. Same thing. Isn't Summer Rae scheduled, or isn't she cleared now to come back?
She's been cleared, yeah. I mean, she was working out at the Performance Center during WrestleMania. So, go ahead, Chris.
And I was thinking with the announcement that she's in the Maxim Hot 100, that would have been perfect place to put her there and just feed off of that PR and reintroduce her that way. But
how many women do you got on Raw that are being used? You got Bailey, Alexa, Sasha, Alicia, who else? Mickey James, Nia Jax.
Nia to an extent, but Nia had a fantastic tweet last night. I don't know if you guys saw it. She's like, I like how SmackDown Live uses all of their women's roster every week because she wasn't on TV the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, hello there. Shade has been thrown.
Yeah. And also Dana Brooke and Emma. So they got 8, right? Yep. They got 8 on Raw. We got 6 right now on SmackDown. So, and now with Lana coming at 7. So I think Summer Rae, that evens it out. You got 8 each if you bring Summer Rae on SmackDown. Now, as far as Nia Jax's tweet, it's like, yeah, you're on TV every week, but you're being used non-effectively, and no one's really becoming a star out of it. But you are on TV every week on SmackDown.
So the actual match with Breezango versus the Colognes last night, what did you think of that, Chris? And what do you think about them keeping the comedy going pretty strong with Tyler Breeze and the outfit switches?
The match was fine. You just got to see the comedic genius of Breezango. And it's the little things. If you can get a freaking mop in a janitor's outfit over, you're doing something right, I guess. But I mean, he did really good comedy in NXT too. So I mean, this is nothing new. These guys are good at their role.
I mean, if it works, it works. If it gets over with the crowd, it gets over with the crowd. It's not my kind of thing. Especially when Tyler Breeze wore the Nikki Bella wig. Because all that reminds me of is Nikki Bella giving her giving him the AA and submitting him, and I don't think that does him any favors. But I'm all for some comedy, but it's working. So if I was booking, I'd keep doing what they're doing with them because it's working.
Yeah. So in a minute, we're going to talk about the rest of the show. But first, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode, DDPY, DDP Yoga, specifically their awesome Max Pack used by the likes of Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Mick Foley, and tons of other WWE stars who love using DDPY. Goldust, you've seen his great promos lately. He credits DDPY with getting him in the best shape of his life, and it can do the same for you. For a limited time, you can get the DDP Yoga Now app for 25% off, or you can get the DDPY DVDs for 25% off, and that includes 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app. That includes Diamond Dallas Page's Monday motivational messages, includes cooking lessons to teach you how to make healthy food taste amazing, and of course, it includes a ton of DDPY workouts, so you're never going to get bored of doing the same routine more than once. Head on over now to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. You can also buy a Max or combo pack at 25% off and get 50% off the second one. That's ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. Take control of your health, take control of your life. You've seen the success stories. So many people have lost so much weight, improve their flexibility, improve their health using DDP Yoga. You can too when you head on over to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. And we thank them for sponsoring the podcast. So we had the last night, the promos backstage with the AJ and Ziggler building up their match, and then Randy Orton came out to speak about losing the title. What did you think, Chris, of that last night with Randy cutting a promo, showing sort of his viewpoint in the whole thing?
This was, I've seen a lot of people say this is his best promo in a while, but I just don't know if it was the direction to go. I mean, yes, he brought his family lineage and his history into the equation and how he should be better than, losing to Mahal. But it almost felt, I'm the American guy, I'm the best, and I should not have lost to that other guy. It felt like it was walking a very thin line to me. It almost felt awkward in a couple places for me.
Yeah, I kind of thought there was a little double entendre there. But that being said, I did think it was Orton's best promo in a while, but that, that's kind of low standards. But it does make him seem more serious. It makes the feud seem serious. It does seem like he's refocused. So on that level, it was good. But yeah, I thought it was Orton's best promo in a while, but still, if you compare it to the other good promos in the company, it wasn't anything special.
Yeah, it's grading on a curve. For Randy, it felt like it was at least giving him perspective, which I feel is what they've really lacked doing. I mean, even his whole thing with the Wyatts, I didn't really get his viewpoint. I like that they took it bigger last night.
Right, and it didn't seem like he was, reciting a script as much as usual. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Usually when somebody fumbles over their words, it actually means that it's coming from their heart or their head. I mean, it's not coming from a script. It doesn't sound recited. It sounded much more natural. So who knows, he actually might have had a little creative freedom on his promo last night.
Yeah.
Whoops. Sorry.
So quickly, Raj, Rich Swann and Sasha Banks lighting it up last night in that 205 Live promo.
Oh, gosh. Those 205 Live promos are the worst. Watching those would make me not want to tune in.
Yeah. What was Matt Morgan's quote from Monday night? I said, Matt, do you think it's a step down for Sasha going to 205 Live, getting involved with this? And Matt said, a step down. It's like they threw her down a flight of stairs.
Oh man.
Well, was shown on all 3 shows this week, so there's something.
Counts for something. How was 205 Live last night?
No, I actually did not get to watch it this week. Believe it or not. That's normally my show, but since I stopped covering it after my little man was born, I have not been into it quite as much. So I did see the highlights. You had Cedric Alexander coming back versus another fellow North Carolina wrestler in Corey Hollis. They put on a nice little match, but I did not get to see much of the other stuff.
It was it's too much campy comedy on that show where you get enough of it on the rest that if you're looking for an alternative, this isn't it. It's just campy comedy with smaller guys. At least on Raw, you have serious feuds here and there. 205 Live just it's dying. And outside of Aries and Neville, and I thought Aries and Neville were by far the best thing, but that's it. You got a weekly show with 2 guys that are something special that are worth watching, and if this wasn't my job, I would not be watching that show. I would have stopped, a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, when you saw the Cruiserweight Classic, you saw what 205 Live could be.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they-
The Cruiserweight
they-
Classic was awesome.
Absolutely, because they integrated stories and characters in that to get all of the competitors over. And it's like once they made 205 Live, they said, let's just write it like any other WWE show, except in a different weight class. And to me, that it just is not going to work because they can do a couple extra moves. It's not going to make them that much better. You still have to have the content with the talent.
Yeah. I will say this, we were predicting with our Extreme Rules predictions, and we'll get to that later. But, on Raw, they had Aries tapping out Neville, which seemed to be indicating that Neville would be beating Aries this Sunday. Now, they didn't do that on 205 Live, but the show ended with Neville having Aries in the rings of Saturn and basically destroying Aries. So who knows? Maybe that means Aries is winning.
Yeah, we'll see. So speaking of victories last night, Dolph Ziggler over AJ Styles. Let's talk a little bit about the match itself and how we got to that point. But to start with, were you surprised with that outcome, Rush?
I was, but this is their normal booking where everybody kind of beats everyone in these multi-person matches, and these finishes are not going to mean anything until Money in the Bank. It's just unless someone beats Nakamura, it's pretty much everyone trading victories until then. But I think Aries is their hottest thing, and doing stuff like this cools him down.
Yeah, sorry with the Styles and Ziggler there. So to me, they're in Styles' hometown. He's not going to win. We know that.
Wait, did I say Styles or Aries?
You said Aries.
I'm sorry, I meant Styles. Styles is the hottest thing on the hottest.
There you go.
SmackDown, and having Ziggler beat him, Ziggler, who's just been competitive matches with Kalisto, hasn't won a big match in a while, and having Styles lose to Ziggler just cools him off.
Yeah. But with that said, I mean, don't you kind of have to build that animosity between people and set up sort of storylines within that ladder match, and also give the perception that anybody can beat anybody? I mean, they should have done that a little bit better, in my opinion, with the Mahal situation instead of bringing. But I almost think that's what they're shooting for, whether it is meaningless or not at this point.
They do that every time, though, is the problem. And they're doing so many of these multi-person matches that when you do have everyone beating everyone, I think it just makes it it makes you not care. And you know what I'd almost want to see is try something different this time. Have two people going to that match super strong, and kind of build it as these two guys, are the two favorites, clearly the favorites. Which one of those two is going to win? Because and you could always still do the swerve with Baron Corbin. I'm guessing he's probably going to win. But you build it that Styles and Nakamura, and they're on this tear, and they're both, you can see them both in the world title match. You book them strong until the pay-per-view, and that's really in your head. So that makes you excited, as opposed to a bunch of guys that have already lost over the past few weeks, and which one is going to win.
Right, and even with that, you have, like I say, if you build one or two guys that are super hot going into the match, then you can have an actual true underdog effect, and say like Zack Ryder did in the IC title match Mania a couple years ago. He wasn't really expected to win, and out there he was. So I mean, you kind of have a lot of different booking directions if you do it that way. So
yeah,
nice point, Rush.
Yeah, and you already had Styles and Nakamura team up last week. You could have kind of kept them on the same team in the same picture, so that way you don't have them face each other at all before Money in the Bank. And anyway, that's my fantasy booking. I can go off on a tangent, but I just think that would have been way more interesting.
Thought the match was good.
Yeah, the match was very good. I mean, with those four guys in there, how could it not be at least decent?
Here's the thing: you see so many good matches a week anyway. I feel like you need more than that in today's climate. It was a good match. Yes, not the opener was a good match, but without the strong booking, it's just you have match every day of the week almost now. So you need more if you want to keep these fans in.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how they keep this going. Dolph, it was not predictable having Dolph win last night, but it's a long way to Money in the Bank. We got Extreme Rules coming up this weekend. So after that, 2 weeks, which is forever in SmackDown TV time.
Yeah. AJ Styles will probably get beat, win 2, lose 3, but in that time period somehow. So.
Yeah.
And random question, guys. Sorry, I know that we've sort of seen a couple of guys that have been off TV for a few weeks now. Mojo Rawley being one of those. Has he been hurt or?
No, he worked a dark match again. He worked the dark match last week. He worked the dark match last night. He teamed with. We got it on this site. It was like Aiden English. It was a 6-man tag, and Mojo was one of the guys. So last week as a 10-man tag, it had. It included American Alpha and I think the Ascension. This week it was Luke Harper, Ty Dillinger, and Mojo Rawley defeating Aiden English and the Ascension.
Yep, Harper and Rowan nowhere to be found, and Ty Dillinger nowhere to be found.
No, Harper was in that match.
I was talking about this week. Yeah, on the show this week is what I was talking about. But
gotcha.
That's kind of odd. You almost think that SmackDown should be the 3-hour show, considering the roster at this point.
Oh, please God, no.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just saying, considering, it would feel almost more natural at 3 hours than Raw would at this point.
Or you could have not had Nakamura wrestle this week, and had done something with Mojo and Rowan, do something different, and. Because again, Nakamura should be something special, and I think he shouldn't be on TV every week right now. And once he stops becoming something special, do what you want.
Yeah. So talking Smack last night, what'd you think of the 5 women showing up and Ellsworth being asked to leave? I thought that was a nice touch.
I like that part, but the rest just seemed like they had to be reminded to be heated. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like be reminded to not like each other. Like Natalya had to remind herself to talk smack. So I mean that's the problem I had with it, because they just come across as they all really like each other, and they have to get into their wrestling personas about having conflict.
Yeah, and Renee Young is always so good with those situations. She even pulled out the old Wade Barrett, can I have some decorum? I think I saw that on there. I thought that was pretty good. She was banging her gavel. So that was a pretty nice little spot there.
I think it would have been more effective to have 1 or 2 and then do another 1 or 2 next week and another 1 or 2 next week. And that way you could just get more of a organic arguing as opposed to this loud bickering all over the place. And other than that, man, I think talking smack has just sucked since Daniel Bryan's been gone. There has been like nothing. And The Miz too. I mean, The Miz, every time he was on there, he would say something that's worth talking about after the show. There is like nothing worth really talking about once Talking Smack is over. Yeah, The Miz going to the Raw was a big mistake. He's gone down several pegs on Raw, and SmackDown's hurting without him. And he was just flourishing. I don't think Miz winning the Intercontinental title this Sunday really changes it that much either.
Yeah. And he went to Raw to stay in a feud with Dean Ambrose, who he's been with on SmackDown forever.
Right. So, that doesn't shake up anything.
Yeah. There's been no shaking up. So speaking of Raw, we got Extreme Rules coming up this Sunday. Let's just quickly go over the card. Rich Swann and Sasha Banks versus Noam Dar and Alicia Fox in a mixed tag match. Chris, are you excited for this?
I am not. So, I mean, I've got the faces winning here, but it's just something for them to do. Like I said earlier, I like the integration between the ladies and the cruiserweights. It gives each of them something to do in a secondary storyline, but other than that, it's just there.
Yeah, good for Rich Swann. I mean, that's how I feel about it. Raj?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this match is meant for anyone to care. You got to have those undercard filler matches. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets moved to the pre-show. Actually, they probably wouldn't, just because they don't want to put the cruiserweights on the. Well, actually, they probably will, because they already have a cruiserweight match on there. I don't care at all. I mean, why should anyone care when they've all beaten each other already, right? I mean, it just gives them something to do. again, my interest is what color ropes do they use? I mean, I'm guessing they'll go with the cruiserweight ropes.
Oh man.
Yeah. Raj, people have picked on me before for having abstract and esoteric concerns about him. I think, you do this long enough.
You tape them half purple is what they should do. So it's an I don't know what you call it, interdivision match. Yeah.
Neville versus Austin Aries. Chris, who do you think's gonna win? Is Neville gonna keep the title for the cruiserweight champion?
I think as good as he's been, it's probably time to give Aries a chance to run and see what happens. So I'll take Aries with the last chancery.
Yeah, after Raw, just by the booking, I was thinking it was probably going to be Neville. But they gave Neville his steam back, so I think it has to be Aries at this point because there's just no one else that's interesting to feud with Neville. And so yeah, I'm gonna say Aries, and this feud keeps going.
Yeah, he's got to get it. I think at this point, or it just strains the credibility. They've been doing this all year.
Who can they add to the cruiserweight division that would be on the level of Aries and Neville?
Finn Balor.
Yeah, that would be a career killer for him.
Yeah. I mean, Kalisto, if you really wanted to make that move.
Yeah, I mean, you totally could, but as Kalisto, yeah, I mean, it's something.
I mean, he did beat Braun Strowman. I mean, of course, on a technicality, obviously, but I mean, they booked it that way anyway. So I mean, they tried to at least do something.
Yeah, I guess I don't think Kalisto on their level, but you could put him there, But I just see no one else that has that really star quality. Like Aries, I think, could be a star in the heavyweight division, and I think Neville with his new heel character could too. If he was booked correctly, but Kalisto I don't, and but in NXT, gosh, I'm trying to think of who else is there.
For the cruiserweights, I mean, Oni Lorcan maybe will be a good filler, but he's not going to be that star power.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be a good roster filler because he hits harder than most of the heavyweights, honestly. Yeah. Let's see. Let's think.
Someone's saying Johnny Gargano.
Oh yeah. That's good. That's a good choice. Yeah. I'm pretty excited about that feud to stay in NXT for a little while, but other than that, maybe in 6 months' time, if 205 Live is still a thing, that could be a good choice.
Yeah, I don't think Tommaso Ciampa, because I think he could be a star in the heavyweight division. But yeah, Aleister Black, again, he's someone I could see as a star in the heavyweight division.
But they've put him at 205.
Yeah, I tell him to start eating and bill him at 210.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Guys being like, I got to get out of the cruiserweights, man.
Yeah, that doesn't give you motivation to eat and lift weights. I don't know what else does.
Yeah. Right. No, definitely. I had the reverse of that in high school wrestling. I was in like the second highest weight class, and I remember there was something like 190 and up, and it was just end up. So you could be 190, you could be 300 pounds, and I was like, I have to be under 190. I am not going in that weight class.
Yeah, it's the opposite because MMA, you want to cut down to the smaller weight class, but here everyone wants to go. People are saying Enzo. I mean, once this storyline is done, it would make the show way more entertaining. The match quality would go down.
Right. That's what I was about to say. His singles matches would probably not be very stellar.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Hardy Boys versus Cesaro and Sheamus in a steel cage for the tag team championship. Raj, we talked about this the other night. Chris, who do you see winning this?
I don't think they're going to take him off the Hardys yet. I don't. I mean, they've put a lot of effort into the Sheamus Cesaro tag team with the new get up, all the new the clothing and the teamwork and whatnot. And I think they've actually blended really well. But I don't think they're going to drop them yet.
Yeah, I mean, booking logic would tell you the Hardys are losing just because Sheamus and Cesaro have lost it,
every match.
Only in the WWE,
except for that one gauntlet match where they look strong. So booking logic would say the Hardys are losing, but I think it's too soon to beat them for them being such a popular act. Plus, in a steel cage, I mean, you could do ways where they sneak out of the cage and pull a fluke, and then it keeps that feud going. Because I don't know who you really have for the Hardys right now. I think it's too soon for the revival. So who else is there to
Yeah.
feud with? So you have
let's see.
Sheamus and Cesaro win. Cesaro. I always do that with when I say Sheamus and Cesaro. But you have them pull out a fluke. It keeps that feud going, and then the Hardys win it back down the road. Hopefully split up and become singles guys.
Yeah. Alexa Bliss versus Bayley for the women's championship. Chris, who do you think?
I'm torn on this one because they're trying their darndest to give Bayley something as a sympathetic babyface, and it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
As good as Alexa is on the mic, that segment died a painful death, in my opinion, on Monday. So I think it would be a mistake to put it back on Bayley at this point. But so I'm going to go with Alexa holding on to it for now.
And real quick, we'll answer some of the questions. We got a lot of questions in the chat. Just use hashtag Wrestling Inc. so we can find them easily. But we'll try to get to some of the questions today.
Yeah.
So I think Alexa makes sense because she is kind of on a roll. She's getting over. She's still new on Raw, but they've been burying Bayley something fierce the last. I mean, Alexa beat her clean. Did she beat her clean at the last pay-per-view at Payback?
Yes, I believe so.
And then she pinned her the next night in that tag match. And then Bayley has just made out to look like a fool pretty much every week since then. So I feel like you have to have Bayley win to protect her or to give her something, to not have her fall so far. It's not gonna destroy her, but it's getting close if you keep booking her like this. But I just think Alexa's on fire right now. Is such a great heel that I'd like to see her. I'd like to see her win, and keep that momentum and lead to something with Sasha.
She's pretty much found a different way to handle what chance 3 weeks in a row, 3 unique, clever ways. And I'm like, yep, that's the person you need as your top women's heel right now, is somebody that can work a room and feel the crowd like that.
What do you think? What do you think, Glenn? I know Bayley and Sammy are your favorites. So
they are not. Bayley's my favorite. Raj, we've been doing this a year, man. How do you not know me better than that? Bayley's.
Okay. Bayley and Mojo.
Yeah. No. Okay. Do we have to go through this again? Like Sammy, Becky. I like Mojo.
So what do you mean? We have. So I do know.
Yeah. I like Alexa, actually. If you've been paying attention, I know you gloss over and zone out many weeks when I talk. But Alexa is my favorite woman on Raw, easily, hands down. That being said, I think that Alexa will be fine whether she wins or loses. Bayley needs the win because she looks terrible.
Some conviction with that pick. I like it.
Yeah.
I got you fired up.
Yeah, Bayley absolutely needs that. And we'll see what happens. One that I wish I was a little more invested in, Dean Ambrose versus The Miz, the continuation of their SmackDown feud for the IC title. You think The Miz is going to get it back, Chris?
Yes, for was that number 7 that it would be. So, I mean, that's quite the reign. I mean, he's edging on, Hall of Fame status, maybe. Who knows? I mean, 7. Yeah, I mean, 7 IC titles and 2 or 3 heavyweight titles. That's a pretty good repertoire. It's a good resume.
Miz is definitely in the Hall of Fame. The Bushwhackers are in the Hall of Fame.
Well, touche. But I mean, he's building quite the resume. He's still doing good work, even though it's not to the extent of his SmackDown work, because I don't think he has either quite as much freedom or the other personalities to work off of, like you did with, say, like a Daniel Bryan or a John Cena at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, Dean's not a great foil for The Miz, I don't think, at this point.
Dean has just been lacking. He's just been, I don't know what it is. I mean, first of all, I think The Miz wins here. I think he's got to win. Dean is just not, there's just something not there that's not clicking. And I mean, I hate, I'm gonna get flack, but he should turn heel and become more organic and try to find more of an edge, because he's supposed to be a lunatic. He doesn't really act like a lunatic except for doing dives, in a match, which everyone does. So, how is he a lunatic? give him that edge. Let him be a little more. Give him more free reign. And it's kind of like I said with Raw being so stale right now. I'd love to see all members of the Shield turn heel and have them run roughshod on Raw and make it interesting. And all those three guys are better off right now as heels.
Yeah.
And I think Bray Wyatt's better off as a face because his heel shtick has gotten so old.
Extreme Rules is where we got the Ambrose Asylum match last year, wasn't it? With the thumbtacks and Chris Jericho.
Oh God, yeah, that was awful.
I was there for the unfortunate setup in Greensboro for that when they unveiled the asylum structure. I was like, "Ooh, this looks cool," and then
At least it was something, I mean, it's Extreme Rules, and here's Dean Ambrose, a guy who, back in the Indies, was, this was his thing, right? I mean, this is where he flourished. This is supposedly what he loves, and he wishes he could do more of. And he's in a match where if he gets DQ'd, again, weird we're talking about DQs at Extreme Rules, but if he gets DQ'd, he loses the title. It's very strange that they have him in a relatively sterile match.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Man, could you imagine though? I mean, like if they did the last year with Jericho and thumbtacks, that was a genuine surprise. Can you imagine if they did Miz with thumbtacks? That would have everyone's attention. I mean, no, thumbtacks are kind of silly, but at least with the Miz,
with these two guys, it's not doing them any favors by not letting them have any play toys or anything like that. They need something because I don't think, as much as I like both of them, neither of their in-ring styles are going to put on an absolute classic with each other.
Right. I mentioned this on Monday. If the pay-per-view is called Extreme Rules, shouldn't the stip be no DQ as opposed to you lose on a DQ?
Correct.
Extreme Rules, you lose on a disqualification. So you poke a person in the eye, you're out.
And guys, I'm bummed that this is not being sponsored by Mountain Dew. Extreme Rules. I think Gold Bond is the sponsor based on what we've been seeing.
Nice.
Gold
but
Bond's
we'll
not
still
that extreme.
they're not going to have bottles of Gold Bond on the kickoff show, I don't think. Hopefully they'll still, do the kickstart with that.
Oh, Jesus. God, at WrestleMania Access last year, I was just going by the table with the samples of Kickstart, and I'm not really a soda drinker anymore, but I was just grabbing those. It was about 3 weeks after, just weird cravings for Mountain Dew Kickstart. Something they put in there.
Wow. They got to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how they get you, the free samples. The Fatal 5-Way for the opportunity to face Brock Lesnar for the WWE Universal Championship at Great Balls of Fire. Oh, good Lord. Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt versus Samoa Joe. The 5 top guys battling for the chance to face the absentee champ at a pay-per-view with the worst name of the year. Chris, who do you like?
Please don't sound so excited, Glenn. Man, I'm actually really looking forward to the match itself because all 5 guys can go, and there's no reason it should be a fantastic match. So give me Finn Balor because they're pushing him so hard that they pretty much don't have a choice at this point, but they may be setting that up, for the old swerve and throw somebody else in there. But it would be kind of a weird dynamic to have Balor versus Lesnar with the size differential. But
totally.
You had Heyman put him over so much, and if you put him in the Demon get-up, then it gives it a little bit of a sense of believability at least.
I think I kind of think it's too soon for Finn and Brock. I think that Heyman promo was partially because I thought Finn was kind of flailing a little bit since his return, and I think that helped elevate him a bit to that level because I feel like he feels more like he belongs now back in that main event picture where he was kind of slipping there for a little bit. I mean, really, what's funny with this match? The least likely is Roman Reigns, right? Because they are trying to save Reigns and Lesnar for WrestleMania. So, and Roman beat Rollins on Raw, so he's the one I'm kind of throwing out, and I'm kind of throwing out Samoa Joe too because I think it's too soon. They haven't really built him up as this threat yet. He does kind of have this badass gimmick, but he hasn't gotten to that Lesnar level threat. Like he'd be someone that would be a problem for Lesnar right now. And I think he will down the road, but as a heel, I just don't see that dynamic right now. Bray Wyatt, someone I think they could do. they've kind of protected him a bit. He beat Randy Orton, at the last SmackDown pay-per-view. Again, with Finn, I think you do that demon gimmick a bit and then have him challenge Lesnar in the fall if he keeps it that long. If the plan is for Lesnar and Reigns at WrestleMania, I hope that Lesnar is here and there at least until WrestleMania, as opposed to gone for months. Yep. If it's not, I think you got to take the belt off him, put him back on if you really want to do that plan. But you got to have the world title on because these shows feel so pointless right now. So with that, I got to go with Rollins. I think Seth wins.
We shall see. I'm with Chris on Finn. So again, Extreme Rules coming up this Sunday, immediately after that ends on the East Coast. Myself, Raj, and Mr. Matt Morgan will be on here discussing everything match by match, segment by segment, surprise by surprise, and of course, disappointment by disappointment. But it could be more surprises than disappointments, and that's really what keeps us watching.
Oh, hey, a lot of these cards that look like they're nothing end up over delivering, and
absolutely.
This main event, the last pay-per-view, was it the last pay-per-view that had the House of Horrors match? No, Payback. I always forget what Payback was.
Everything except House of Horrors was pretty solid.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
But that House of Horrors brought it down something fierce.
Yes. What will be the House of Horrors match of Extreme Rules? That's really the question we should be thinking about.
And that was my point. There's no House of Horrors this match on here, so
mixed tag.
Yeah, I don't think, but that's not like going to be put in a position. No. And plus, Rich Swann and Noam Dar and Sasha and Alicia, they can go. So
they're all great. They're all fantastic.
It's just the storyline. Yeah,
it's the storyline. It's how they book the cruiserweights. It's so many things that make that get the reaction that it's gotten from people. It has nothing to do with the performers. In fact, I think that they're all four of them are some of the more capable performers the WWE has, and they've earned the good graces of the fans.
William Regal,
Sasha Banks, yes,
yeah, he called Sasha Banks the one wrestler from NXT that he's most proud of. Yes. And Sasha can go, so yeah, it should be good. All right, let's get some of these questions.
Here's a good one. Will Rusev interfere in the Orton match at Money in the Bank with Jinder?
I wouldn't mind that. Will he? Probably not, but I wouldn't mind that.
He's MIA, man.
I don't think he's going to be added to the Money in the Bank ladder match. A couple of people are asking that, but I think Rusev and Orton would be a good way to go if Jinder beats Orton.
Yeah.
And then you move Jinder to, either AJ or Nakamura. And that way you have two top level feuds, so I think that makes sense, but, and it would be a good way to have Jinder win again without having to have Orton lose clean. Although I'd like to see Orton lose clean just because, once in a while, I feel like the heel world champions still need to get their wins to kind of add some credibility to that title.
Yeah. No, I think that would be good. What else do we got?
Let's see here. Bayley wins. Alexa isn't seen again. I'm sure if Bayley won, they would keep that feud going. Whereas Nia Ben, we mentioned that earlier, she's around. They're just creative has nothing for her. She's in Dana Brooke territory right now.
Which is weird. Nia versus Dana, that would be a good Extreme Rules match, especially someone's asking where are the tables. No, that in a tables match? Sorry,
God,
guys.
no, that would be god awful.
Oh my God, no way.
what have you said? Now, if Emma was back or something, and you made a three-way, right? Then you got something.
I think Extreme Rules should be like out of a random match generator and just literally be like this person versus this person with barbed wire, this person versus this person, on chairs.
But I mean, Nia was Alexis Diesel there for a couple of weeks, and it's just like they dropped that idea altogether once they figured out that Alexa could hold her own with the crowd and whoever else. So yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting that they just randomly dropped Nia from the equation.
Yeah. Would the crowd boo Roman if he had Seth and Dean at ringside? I think initially he still would. I think he'd get a ton of boos at the beginning, but I'm sure after a while the fans would probably start cheering him.
Yeah.
Whereas the tables matches, instead you got a title change hands on a DQ match. But I've never been a big fan of tables matches. I like using tables in matches, but you can come up with too many flukish finishes with the tables matches. And what else? Can WWE go back to the old school mentality of booking? I think they're so far gone now that it's hard for them to.
Well, if you look, again, I'm an NXT mark. I think, Glenn, you are to an extent.
Yeah.
If you look at the way they do things, it feels much more old school. They have very defined heels and faces. They have some basic characters. They have some out-of-the-box characters. It's just a very good mixture of sort of the favorite years of wrestling for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's why a lot of those, I mean, I feel like NXT the past year since they've lost Finn and Nakamura started getting a little, not stale, but he wasn't quite as exciting as a top guy as I thought Finn was. I feel like the glory years of NXT so far have been when Finn and Kevin Owens were there, and Samoa Joe. But I feel like the last 6 months of NXT has been kind of dull, but their angles still work, and it shows when Ciampa turned on Gargano. I mean, the heat that that heel turn got, you don't see that much on the main roster. The one exception being when Owens turned on Jericho, but it just shows like sometimes that simple storytelling can really build your stars.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Someone's asking if it's a big mistake for WWE placing a title on Brock Lesnar and being a no-show. I guess they mean until the July pay-per-view. What do you guys think?
Glenn, knock yourself out, my friend.
No, look, we've talked about it before. So does it give the title an air of intrigue and mystery? Sure, but I don't think that's what you want. I think there's been no stakes at the top of the ladder, no pun intended, on Monday Night Raw. It's like we talked about the other night. You had Seth versus Roman in a match that was pay-per-view quality, and it meant absolutely nothing. They weren't battling it out to be number one contender. They sure as hell weren't battling it out for the title. They were battling out as a placeholder to the Fatal 5-Way against the other top guys for the opportunity to face the champ, who we haven't seen all but once since WrestleMania. I just think there's gravity lacking at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, and I don't blame Lesnar. I blame WWE. I mean, they had all those appearances for Lesnar that they wasted on live events, and he must have something weird in his contract where a Raw appearance costs way more than a live event, match or something like that. Because some of this doesn't make sense. And all those Raws he showed up at, where he shows up for a dark match segment to beat up the Big Show, and he didn't appear on the show at all. And now. And I've said this before, WrestleMania, you get this huge bump in your rating, right? It's the highest rated Raw of the year. Yeah. That is the time to start a hot feud and build that momentum. And that's what their hottest era ever was when Steve Austin beat Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. And instead of just could you imagine if Austin was just gone for the next few months after that? But instead of that, they had their hottest summer ever, which led to their, the peaks of wrestling. Mm-hmm. And build that momentum off of WrestleMania. Try to get people that are tuned into Raw that next night to keep coming in, and wanting other people to join in with them instead of just building lazy number one contender. Your story, your storyline for the next 2 months is just who's going to be the number one contender.
Yeah.
Let me know when you guys figure out that 30-day title defense little clause. Since they took it away from, who was it? Naomi at that one point, since she technically could not defend, and now we haven't seen Lesnar in God knows how long. So,
has Naomi defended?
Well, they took it away from her, before Mania,
right?
Because of that, and then that's true. She may not actually have since Mania. So. Touche. Yeah,
I mean, you can't take these rules too seriously.
No.
When people get upset over the 30-day clause, it's like it's WWE rules. They mean nothing.
It's there for convenience when a storyline needs it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like the rematch clause. Triple H never got his rematch clause from Roman Reigns. You can't get too bogged down on storyline holes in WWE. Someone's asking about the thoughts on Cena's recent tweet about his return on July 4th. Yeah, that's his. It's his return date. John Cena's back on July 4th. We reported that a couple of weeks ago. And he was in Atlanta this week filming The Pact, which is a comedy movie. And it was, and SmackDown was in Atlanta I figured they weren't going to show him on TV, but if he wanted to stop by and do a dark segment, that would have been kind of cool. But I think his schedule doesn't allow it because he's pretty swamped.
Question for that, though. Since he's returning on July 4th, Independence Day, does he go for the United States title or does he go for the world title?
I think it's world title. I think that's why I think Jinder. I think Jinder beats Orton. You could go with Rusev interfering, and then you go with because that's the. Well, I guess you still got one more pay-per-view, right? You got a July pay-per-view,
Battleground,
and that's like mid-July, right?
I believe mid or late July. Yeah.
You got to set up for SummerSlam's mid-August,
right? And with SummerSlam, they're not going to do two strong world title matches. They never do when they have the two brands. So one brand will get the big world title match, the other one will get the not so big. And I think Raw already has Braun Strowman versus Lesnar, so I could see them doing
Dolph Ziggler versus John Cena for the
Ziggler versus Jinder.
Oh boy,
yeah.
We'll see.
Cool, guys. So taking it home here, Chris, anything you want to plug? Where can people find you on the Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at knockdown_radio and just hang out with me on Monday and Tuesday for Raw and SmackDown on the Wrestling Inc. Twitter and on the NXT live viewing parties.
Awesome, man. Raj, anything you want to
And
plug?
on the pay-per-views, he'll be on this Sunday
very true.
This Sunday. Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool.
And myself, I got some stuff with Luke Hawx, independent wrestler. He starred with The Rock in a couple movies lately. He worked a lot with Matt Hardy. So I interviewed him recently, got some cool stuff coming up that I'm hoping to get up. I think it'll be today or tomorrow with more next week. My interview with Tama Tonga is coming up soon. Working on something with Tony Schiavone. We had interviewed him recently, but hoping to get him on this podcast soon. So
cool, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's stay tuned, and it's a busy weekend this weekend. So make sure to keep checking us out. Sunday
night, we're going to be here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast right after Extreme Rules ends. Myself, Mr. Matt Morgan, and Raj Giri talking about the lowdown on every single match that happens. Look forward. I hope you all join us then. So until next time, folks, I'm Glenn Rubenstein on behalf of Chris Callicutt and Raj Giri. We'll see you next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.